It's the end of 2022 and this is video 319. If you've watched all 319, you can give yourself a pat on the back, but if you're in the UK, please don't dislocate anything as you do so, because there are no ambulances, no GPs and no hospitals, and possibly no Royal Mail to bring you a get well card. GPs who earn huge six-figure salaries want a 21-hour working week without having to see patients face to face and are threatening to go on strike. How will anyone tell if GPs go on strike? They gave out millions of toxic jabs that cause heart attacks, and now there's no ambulance and no hospital to treat you when you have your heart attack. Today I'm going to tell you what is going to happen in 2023. I don't have an informer feeding me secrets, I don't have microphones planted in the World Economic Forum headquarters, and I don't have Bill Gates on speed dial. I know exactly what's going to happen because ever since early 2020, when the lies first started big time and governments all around the world began singing the same words to the same gloomy dirge, the conspirators have been following a ruthless and evil program of deceit, deception and fear. In the true tradition of baddies such as Ernst Stavro Blofeld, the conspirators want to take over the world. It's all about power and money. They want all the remaining oil for themselves. They know it's running out and they want to keep their obscene super yachts moving. They also want enough fuel for planes and for bombing foreigners. The oil shortage is now eternal and getting worse. Extra taxes on oil companies mean that exploration is halting. Banks won't support companies looking for more oil. The EU's policies on tankers and their insurance means that the worldwide flow of oil will be hampered. The EU, remember, was always the conspirators' first step towards an unelected, brutal world government. Those who support the EU are collaborators of the very worst kind. As Russian oil disappears from the market, the other producers will have ever more power. The price of oil is just going to go up and up. The conspirators, helped by discredited organisations such as YouTube and the BBC, created global warming as an excuse to stop us travelling, and the plans are progressing well. The government in the UK was recently advised by climate change cultists in Oxford and the inevitable Imperial College that by 2030 all airports in the UK must close except Heathrow, Glasgow and Belfast, and by 2050 those three remaining must go. Until then, access to airports must be by rail only. In Oxford, which now seems to me to be the world centre for insanity born of tyranny, citizens are to be locked into community prisons for most of the year. Check it all out if you don't believe me. Presumably only the conspirators, politicians and the climate change cultists will be allowed to travel. And as I warned you the best part of 3 years ago in a video entitled A Population Control Plan, published on May the 16th, 2020, and taken down very quickly by the discredited YouTube, they want to reduce the world's population. The transcripts in my book, COVID-19, The Greatest Hoax in History, which contains the scripts of all my early videos, except for the first one, which I did without a script. The deliberately created food and fuel shortages are all part of their ruthless, genocidal master plan. The designer war, which we haven't quite declared against Russia, means that Western farmers are denied access to fertilizers. Remember, 28% of the entire global supply comes from Russia and Ukraine. That, on top of the soaring cost of fuel and heavy-handed government action, means that thousands of farms are being closed. The Dutch government, for example, just closed 3,000 working farms to please the cultists, who claim that they're worried we might have slightly better summers occasionally. The absurd rewilding schemes whereby bison, boar, wolves, beavers and wildcats are introduced into the countryside where they've never been before are aimed at forcing people out of the countryside and into the towns, as well as forcing food prices ever higher and ensuring that most people eat food made in laboratories. All those bison wandering around won't do fields of cabbage or solar panels much good. People don't notice what's happening because they're misled by the distractions and misdirections. The conspirators are like conjurers. They use feeble-minded, narcissistic exhibitionists like Mr. Harry and Mrs. Meghan to distract the feeble-minded masses. Fake rows about race and sexism are created to distract and divide. A word considered unsuitable becomes a life-changing assault but only if it goes one way. Meanwhile, racism against white males seems to continue unabated. A white man who applied for a job with West Yorkshire Police was apparently told that he wasn't suitable because they were hiring only women and ethnic minorities. Turn that round and see how it sounds. How many double woke lefties would start screaming if West Yorkshire Police was to announce that it wasn't recruiting women or non-white males, or only recruiting non-Jews, or only recruiting heterosexuals? You can hear the screams. Race campaigners will take down a statue, but I haven't seen them complaining about hundreds of millions starving to death in Africa and Asia because of massively high food and fuel prices. Europe, while pretending to be very green and committed to net zero, is importing huge quantities of chopped up trees so that they can burn them to make electricity, and being supplied with liquefied natural gas being imported from the United States in huge diesel-powered tankers. And within Europe, 573 billion euros of taxpayers' money has been spent on keeping energy prices affordable. That sort of money isn't available in Africa or Asia. The next problem for Europe is that the gas storage tanks were filled with Russian gas long ago. That isn't going to happen before next winter. Moreover, Chinese imports of LNG gas were low because of their crazy zero COVID policies. When those end, the Chinese will be buying up all the gas. If you think this winter's bad for prices and feeling cold, wait until next winter. Digitalisation, compulsory vaccination and a global social credit programme are part of the plan to control everything we do. The enemy will keep the fear levels as high as they can, with starvation, economic collapse, wars and endless threats of new diseases. And of course, vaccine injury deaths are classified as sudden adult death syndrome. They'll never blame the vaccines for anything. They'll link the vaccines to the digitalisation, and you won't be able to do anything or go anywhere if you haven't had all their compulsory jabs. I warned about all that years ago, as you'll remember. The most important immediate fight is the battle to retain cash. The half-witted say, oh, what a pity it is that cash is disappearing, with no conception of why cash is disappearing. Cash is the key to everything. Don't use shops or cafes which won't take cash. Just walk out. And if your local council introduces car parks where you can park only by using an app, make sure that you complain. I believe they're probably breaking the law and you should appeal if you get fined. Take photos and get witnesses. We have to fight these damned apps every way we can. This is at the moment a truly vital battle. They want an entirely digital society. When there's no cash, they can cut off your access to your money. Look what happened to the Canadian truckers whose bank accounts were frozen because they dared to protest. And look what happened to BitChute, one of a limited number of platforms where truthful videos can appear. Help Ray at BitChute if you can. There's advice on how you can help on that platform. My thanks to Mark at Earth Newspaper and all those people who put my videos on BitChute and other platforms. And try going back to brand new Tube, which Mohammed Butt has been fighting to restore. The people who took it down, whoever they were, managed to delete and destroy a whole pile of my videos. But we did manage to find backup copies behind the sofa. And house prices, well, they're going down everywhere, but they'll go down most in Britain. As I pointed out in my last video, independent experts now believe that house prices could go down by a third. A £3,000 house will be worth £200,000. Most homeowners with mortgages will be underwater. They'll owe more on their home than it's worth. Remember the World Economic Forum, you will own nothing and be happy. And mortgage rates are going to stay high. They're never going back down to where they were. Nothing's now happening by accident. There are no coincidences. Everything bad is happening as part of a master plan. And once you know that, it's easy to see what comes next. You and I may be described as conspiracy theorists, but they are conspiracy practitioners. Every time something bad happens, ask yourself who benefits from this and exactly how will they benefit? And ask yourself how the conspirators stand to profit. Remember, they're a potent mixture of hypocritical left-wingers who are indistinguishable from communists and a bunch of greedy billionaire tricksters who are nothing more than raw fascists. And if you think it's strange to suggest that communists would work with fascists, consider this. If politics is a straight line with communists at one end and fascists on the other, and you then turn the straight line into a circle, then the communists and the fascists stand side by side because their aims and methods are indistinguishable. The conspirators and their handmaiders, collaborators, people such as politicians, academics, broadcasters, government advisors, newspaper editors, and the medical establishment will tell you that inflation will soon be under control, that interest rates will go back to nothing, that fuel and food prices will soon be normal again, and that all we have to worry about is the climate cultists' hysterical and nonsensical claims that the Eiffel Tower will be entirely underwater by a week on Wednesday, and that the Statue of Liberty will have melted by the following Tuesday. Net zero is the most chilling piece of legislative nonsense ever created, worse than China's insane net COVID policy, which is of course deliberately designed to improve compliance with the tyrannical social credit system. The medical establishment has thrown itself behind massive vaccination campaigns and the climate change myth. Look at history and you'll see that the medical establishment is nearly always wrong. If anyone from the medical establishment dared to debate that statement, I'd be happy to do so, but they won't, because they know I'm right, and they're all gutless bastards. The truth is that man-made global warming doesn't exist, and even if their worst predictions were based on fact instead of fantasy, none of it would matter a damn. The world isn't going to catch fire, the sea isn't going to evaporate, none of their threats is real. And the real proof is, as with vaccination, is that they will not debate climate change. No discussion is allowed. The media, such as the discredited BBC, have banned all discussion and questioning of vaccination, and they pretty well banned all discussion of global warming. They pretend that these issues are accepted, but they're only accepted by the conspirators. The world is awash with masses of evidence proving that vaccines do more harm than good, but the establishment continues to deny that such evidence even exists. There's absolutely no doubt that the COVID-19 jabs do massively more harm than good, but doctors and nurses keep on giving them, deliberately poisoning their patients and being well paid for it. And patients who need blood transfusion and who ask for unvaxxed blood are abused by doctors and nurses. Indeed, parents who ask for their children to be given unvaxxed blood are likely to have their children taken away from them. We have no freedom and we have no free speech. Things are so bad that many scientists writing research papers are self-censoring because they're terrified of losing their careers. It's all about money. Drug companies are making billions out of vaccines. Doctors are making millions out of giving vaccinations. The climate change industry is a commercial scam, just like AIDS, and there are huge numbers of people making big money out of it. The billions being demanded in reparation payments will be siphoned off by climate change crooks and pressure groups. 9 million Britons of working age are now not working or looking for work. They are tired of work. Sunak's free money has encouraged them to believe that work is for other people. Massive rises in benefit payments are part of the plan to make everyone dependent upon the government. Why work when the government will give you more money to stay at home and watch television? Around the world, tens of millions of people now claim to be unable to work because of long COVID, an imaginary disease which has been promoted by politicians and the media because it's convenient and useful for the politicians. Millions are at universities studying courses in subjects that are of no value whatsoever and which will lead them into debt, long COVID and a life on benefits, and they don't count as the unemployed. The conspirators want us all to do everything online. There's not going to be any need for doctors, nurses, teachers, bank staff, travel staff or IT staff. Computers and robots can do everything, but they do it cheaper and better. Robots are better than surgeons and kinder than nurses. Police will be replaced by robots. Food will be made in factories by robots, not grown on farms. Civil servants will be unnecessary. There'll be no daily postal service. Builders and lawyers will be replaced by computers and robots. There'll be no newspapers or printed magazines. All this is already happening. Just check it out. Look at all the hundreds of thousands of people who've recently lost their jobs. The IT companies are getting rid of staff in huge numbers. So what is going to happen is that inflation is going to stay high. Governments have to keep inflation high to eradicate the huge debts they've built up. And interest rates aren't going back to zero or next to zero. Remember, the prices of food and fuel are staying high and staying higher. And so the price of everything will soar. Governments are going to continue handing out huge quantities of our money so they have more control over us, and taxes are going to stay high and go higher. Designer wars are going to be fought without our approval, but with our money. They're removing the controls from banks so that they can make even more money. Did you notice, by the way, that in the UK, although the middle classes are being hammered by higher taxes, Schwab's government, I suppose we have to say Sunak, government is taking the cap off bankers' bonuses. Did you notice that? It's simply not true that everyone's paying more. There'll be more and more taxes. I can see global taxes and health warnings on meat and meat products within 2 years, if not before, in the same way that there are massive taxes and warnings on tobacco. And the conspirators are attacking vegetarian eating so that they can sell us a diet of wasps, locusts and factory-made garbage. Small businesses and the self-employed are doomed to a long struggle with the inevitable. Pubs, cafes and small independent shops have no future because there's no place for them in the new normal. The Great Reset doesn't have a place for independent businesses any more than it has a place for independent thinking. Millennials who think we're all going to go back to low interest rates and low inflation are living alongside Peter Pan in Never Never Land. There will be no more cheap imports from China to keep prices down. We're already well into extra time. If we don't take action very quickly, it'll soon be all over. As we move remorselessly into a digital cashless world, the ghettos I warned nearly 3 years ago are getting more and more real every day. No one will save us. We have to save ourselves. We need to stay alert. The latest danger is that they're planning to make it a war crime to tell the truth about vaccines of all kinds or about global warming. Telling the truth is going to be a war crime, branded as terrorism and a crime against humanity. Please look at my websites, www.vernoncoleman.com and www.vernoncoleman.org, where there's new material most days, and share what you find with everyone on social media. I'm banned from everywhere except my own websites and those kind people who carry my material on their sites. Any social media sites which you see in my name are fraudulent. Discredited conspiracy sites such as YouTube actually ban me from looking at other stuff on their site. Woke organisations like the Royal Society of Arts expelled me for daring to tell the truth. Anyone who's still allowed to put videos on sites such as YouTube has to be considered rather suspiciously. Remember, each time you use discredited and dangerous sites such as YouTube, Google, Wikipedia or Facebook, you're making those discredited sites stronger by making them richer. If you'd like to buy one of my books, that would be terrific. Running websites costs more than you think. There are fees for this and fees for that, and we've never accepted ads or charged fees. The good news is that the traffic to vernoncoleman.org last month reached 17.5 million, and that there are often 3,000 serious hacking attempts in a month which are stopped. And remember, when you see something bad happening, you have to stand up for what you believe to be right. If you don't, then you might just as well be dead. Sadly, most people have turned their faces to the wall and they've given up. There's no free speech anywhere in the world. Anyone who says differently doesn't understand. In the UK, Christians are now an ethnic minority, and in many parts of the country, white English folk are an oppressed ethnic minority. But you are definitely not alone. More and more people are waking up, and once they're awake, they don't go back to sleep. I hope you have a much better 2023 than they want us to have. May God go with you, and remember, they want compliance, so let's give them defiance. Distrust the government, avoid mass media, and fight the lies. That's as true now as it was when I first said it 3 years ago. And if you want to save yourself, your family and your friends, please share this and my other videos with everyone you know and with people you don't know. I can't share anything because I'm banned everywhere for the modern sin of telling the truth. But I'll be here on www.vernoncoleman.org and www.vernoncoleman.com for as long as I can. Thank you for watching. An old man in a chair.